Hello and welcome to a nice Wednesday afternoon. Afternoon podcast here with myself, Andrew, and one of my very favourite podcasters, Stevie, reacting to the press conference and the official news now that Russell Martin has been confirmed as head coach for the men's team on a 3-year deal. We're going to obviously dig into the statement itself, but I think it's worth saying right off the bat to Stevie, you were in the press conference. You were there for the thing. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I was privileged to be there. I had the chance to witness the press conference. Managed to ask a question to him and Kevin Thelwell, which was good. We then met Russell Martin behind the scenes, spoke to him off camera, and had a really interesting chat with him off the record. And then on the record, we spoke to Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart, which is audio, Andrew, that we recorded for this show and will be available to members this afternoon. So, yeah, that'll be all available and people can hear about that. But first impressions are good, and they always were going to be good because he speaks really well. He conducts himself very well, and he's also got a clear ideology of what he wants to do. So yeah, we spoke about it a lot, and it was all good. Lots of things to take away from today, Andrew. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting and seeing what you can get with this. I think always this is the easy bit. Effectively, we can say he spoke well during the press conference, but then I can't think of many managers who spoke poorly. I'm glad that a lot of folk are pointing out that I don't know what day it is. And I think that's just the level of professionalism you should be expecting here from four lads. This is just, the kind of dedication and commitment that we have to being good. Listen, I'm seeing a lot of folk who are saying we just need to get behind the manager at this point. And that's the truth. I mean, we can complain, we can moan, but this is the manager. This is who it is. It's not going to change anytime soon, at least we hope. And frankly, we want successful Rangers. That happens if the manager is successful in his own work. So, from my perspective, sitting on the outside watching it on YouTube, all sounded positive. I think he's aware of the scale. Spoke about his brief time as a player at the club, where he said he didn't live up to the standards that were expected, and he's aware of what those standards are and what is expected. Wouldn't be drawn on any specific commitments to winning trophies, but it was very much the case that he knew you're at Rangers, you need to win games. So it's going to be very interesting, I think, to see the squads and the players that do come in to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely is. And listen, let's just answer that. Patrick Stewart was asked about the 20 million, which has become this kind of balloon type figure that everybody's looking at. 20 million is not the transfer budget. It's not what he's got to spend. Patrick Stewart said he would get a significant amount of that, if I remember rightly were his words. He is not going to come out and tell you that 20 million is earmarked. And what I will add is this is on top of any budget we currently already had and already had earmarked and ready for this summer. Now, Patrick Stewart spoke quite confidently about, that being competitive even before that coming in previously. So this will allow Rangers to accelerate everything that they want to do this summer. That is what is coming out of the football club. The football club will not sit there and go, he's only got 20 million, he's only got 30 million. This is not the case. So people need to forget about the 20 million, just put it to the side. There is money to spend. We will be signing a lot of players, and we just need to relax a wee bit about that, Andrew, with regards to, answering that straight away. Somebody else asked, are the BBC at the pressers? Yes, they are. Chris McLaughlin was in the press conference today. Everybody was at the press conference. So hopefully that clears up the kind of money side of it. I think, Andrew, everybody's got that round their neck. Only 20 million. 20 million is more in a summer than anyone has spent in recent terms. So let's just wait and see how much we spend, because the club are not going to come out and let that be known to absolutely everyone, because that would just be pretty silly to do so. So, but getting back to today, and in terms of what he said, Andrew, I think a lot of the questions he dealt with very well. I think the press were asking him, and they were absolutely determined to try and get him to say, we're going to win the league and this is why we're here. And he made it quite clear, we're here to win games. And that's his objective straight away. He's here to fix the squad. He's here to try and set an identity in it. He's here to get people playing well and get something that excites us. And I think that's the biggest thing. We made it clear to him that we need excitement in this team. We need pace and we need power and things. And he acknowledges that. So we have to sit back now and allow that to unwind and happen, Andrew. And he needs to have the tools to put that in. And that's why I asked the question about recruitment, because there was so much being said about that, Andrew. I just thought it was a good place to go and maybe clear people's minds, because the idea that Russell Martin's going to come in and sign every single player from the Championship and that is just a nonsense. That's not how it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, we've hired the director of football for a reason. He's obviously going to be, a key part of this. I don't think it will just be one or the other. Russell Martin's obviously going to have some input, because ultimately he's going to be the manager. He's going to need to work with whoever's coming in. And they did make the point that it's going to be a collaborative approach. And that's good. I mean, that's, again, one of these things of bringing us more into modern footballing setup. So it's what we've been looking for. The structure, I think, is the right one. But as I said last night, and as I'll continue to say, all of this is going to be driven by results. And certainly Martin seems to have the right idea that, or at least know what the remit is, which is to win games. And yeah, you can only hope that we start putting that squad together around him that will deliver that.
Yeah, time will tell. Interesting question here, John. Good afternoon. John's a mate of mine. John, how are you? Can Russell beat the low block? There was a question put to Southampton fans and fans of his previous games. 22 games, I think, or 22 wins from 31 games was what Southampton fans put up as can he beat the low block? And they said that was when he was at his best against Blackburn, etc., who are a very low block. And he said he's absolutely designed to beat the low block. And that came from Southampton fans. The low block isn't really the issue with him. So that is an interesting one. It seems to come up a lot. Can he beat the low block, etc.? And we'll not know, Andrew, until we go to places and he comes up against it. But from what people have said before, at his previous clubs and fans of his previous clubs, that's not an issue. So that's really just where it is. But he spoke, look, to go wide ranging. His message today was we've got to win and we've got to win quickly. He knows that. I don't think he's fooled by anything. He spoke to Patrick Stewart, and Kevin Thelwell off, and they were impressive as well in what they had to say, surrounding that as well. So all in all, it was a very worthwhile experience, Andrew. You're never going to look, words don't win football matches. We all know that. But I think we just have to park it now in terms of, however we felt or whatever we felt about it. He's here now. Let's get behind it. Let's get on board, support him as much as we can, and let's just see where it goes.
For sure. And I mean, folk asking, about the captain or the squad in general, we know that there's going to be massive changes to this squad. I don't think that question gets asked until we start seeing training, we start seeing who's coming in, who's going out. That's going to be when the captaincy question is going to be much more pertinent. There's questions about the style of play as well. One thing that Thelwell, Patrick Stewart, and Martin all were keen to stress is talking about his teams playing dominant football, controlling the ball, dictating the tempo, and imposing themselves physically and working relentlessly on and off the ball. And I mean, that's, again, it's just words, but it's stuff that we've been asking for. It's been stuff that we were wanting. We want Rangers to be dominating and imposing themselves onto games. It's been a common complaint that we've had in a lot of the games this past season that we failed to do that. So, again, it's only words, but it's certainly the right ideas that we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, it is. And look, we weren't not going to be impressed by what was said today. You know, it's a press conference for a manager's first day. Everybody's exciting. Everybody is looking to see what he's going to say. So I thought he was very open in the conversations he had with us privately. He was very open. I think he goes into this fully with his eyes wide open of what's required, the challenges he faces. There's going to be a lot of players coming in, Andrew, a lot. There's going to be players leaving the football club. That is not a surprise to anyone, but it's now confirmed. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks. You know, we made the comment to Kevin Thelwell on the interview, which you'll hear, that, you know, he's been in now for 24 hours. This is taking too long. And that's the expectation at levels at Rangers, isn't it? Because everything needs to get going as quickly as possible. So he's got a lot of work to do in this squad. I think that's clear. We're 7 or 8 starters immediately, and I think he knows that. So we just now need to wait and see and go from it. But cleared up a couple of things today for sure. That was why the recruitment question was asked, Andrew, in terms of who's going to make the decisions around signings, who's going to make the decisions on the direction of the football club and the philosophy and that sort of thing. So they were worthwhile, and hopefully people got a gauge from those.
Well, I mean, Stevie, you know, we know we're going to give him time, at least 10 minutes into the first pre-season friendly. So, I mean, that's more than enough time to make some really strong judgments and, you know, absolutely know exactly everything that's going to happen. The fact of the matter is, Martin's not coming into this blind. He knows exactly what the support are like. He knows who he's coming in to deal with. He won't have done this, you know, feeling, I don't know, that he's going to have an easy ride, let's say. He knows it's going to be tough. I think you could see that in the press conference. So you obviously had that conversation with him that's been off the record as well. It's going to be hard work, but I think he's coming into this knowing that as well.
He's definitely coming into it knowing what he's going into. So is Kevin Thelwell. They both realise the extent of work that needs to be done on our squad. They realise the extent of work that needs to be done on the profile of player here, Andrew. Not only in bringing players in, but what's missing from the squad. I think that's really clear. He's got a clear ideology about how he wants to play and what he wants to do. But unable to do that, we don't have those players. So it's a big journey. But it's not one that, you know, he's not going to be sitting there in 5 weeks and say, oh, well, nobody told me this. It's been made, you know, abundantly clear, and he makes it clear that he knows the situation of the squad as well. So I don't have any issues in that. I think he's well aware of what this football club needs to be able to even play the way he wants it to. Never mind being successful or whatever. Put all that to the side. To do what he actually wants them to do, he's got a hell of a lot of work and players to come in to be able to do that in a very short space of time. So this is a real sea change. A real sea change in the club's thinking. It's a real difference in how we're doing things. And it comes from the Football Review. Patrick Stewart spoke about it. He was very clear on that. We have made the decision to go with a head coach and a sporting director in this structure because they believe that things have been doing for several years is just repeated and repeated and repeated, and it's never fixing itself. So it's a clear change in thinking. It's a style. The style that they made very clear was we want to be attacking, high press, dominant on the ball, physical, aggressive, and we want to win games. Every single person that I've spoke to wants an attacking, high press, dominant Rangers team. And this is a style that they're going to try and implement. We want attacking football. We want to be entertained. We want to be excited by players and individuals. And when was the last time we had somebody, you know, we've had a few scatterings of Czerny at times, Seema at times, etc., like one-offs in teams. But when was the last time we had threats coming from multiple positions, left, right, middle, being able to supplement whatever's up front. This is what they're going to try and bring. So Russell Martin has got a real kind of thought behind what he wants to do. And to be able to do that, he will have to get that players. Otherwise, he will fail. And everybody's aware of that. So the next few weeks, months are going to be really interesting because the influx and players going out is going to be really high. Couple of questions in there, people saying we have to sell. We do not have to sell. There is no pressure on anyone to sell any players. Rangers have funds and money is available this summer. If a deal comes in that is much, will do the squad good and will do the finances good, etc., then yeah, we will take that on board. But that's the same as anything. So we do not need to sell. That is not true in the slightest. But we've got an exciting few weeks coming up because players will, as I said, be arriving thick and fast. And let's make sure they're the right ones, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to these signings. Recruitment's going to be key. We've said it all along. I don't think, as you say, there's the requirement to sell. I think from a financial perspective, I think from a practical standpoint, there's probably a requirement to sell because we know that there are a number of players in here who, at least in our view, aren't good enough to be starters or part of the squad for Rangers. There's inevitably going to be some turnover. There's already been players going out with contracts ending, etc. But I suspect there will be other players who are going out just because they don't fit into the season or to the kind of philosophy or style of football we're going to play. It was something that was stressed by Patrick Stewart, Thirlwell, and Martin as well, talking about this style of football. Wanting to have that style of football coming in, and it's going to be interesting to see how that starts getting, applied, how we start seeing this being implemented. And Martin was, I think, fair in setting out the expectations, didn't guarantee a trophy or anything like that, but said that the aim is to win games. And that's the most important thing for Rangers. It's building a squad that won't be finished immediately in the first few weeks, but will be in a position to compete and to win games. That's what we've been asking for. That's what we want. So let's see if it transpires.
Listen, he dealt with it really well because let's be honest, anybody that watched that press conference, I felt it in there. He even mentioned it himself. They were trying to get him to say Russell Martin promises a trophy. Russell Martin promises a league. Russell Martin promises dominance. That's so that they can at time put it back to him. Well, you said you were doing this. The only thing that Russell Martin made very clear today was Rangers Football Club need to win games. They need to win games immediately. They need to find ways to win games while they're still building, while they're still transitioning to how he wants to play. This isn't an overnight fix. This isn't one and done. It isn't a window where everything fixes everything. We're going to have to be incredibly lucky to bring in players that fit the mold to a T where you get 8 out of 8, 10 out of 10, 12 out of 12, whatever it's going to be incoming. So it's really going to be a case of, this needs to be a building block and we need to take our time in that. We cannot be too judgmental. We cannot write it off after one window and stuff. And that was something that was made clear today as well. It's going to need that. But he knows straight away that he's under no illusions that, you won't get time here. You don't get that grace here. You don't get, time to settle in or to make mistakes. So he knows what's expected of him at the word go. I thought it was interesting as well. And what I liked it in the press conference where he talked about his 6 months here. And he said that they were awful and he wasn't in the shape and he really regrets that. And this is a chance for him to come back and right those wrongs, and he's desperate to do it. The word desperate to me was really interesting. So I like that. I like that desire, Andrew, to right a wrong from his perspective, and I really like that from him.
Yeah, it's going in with your eyes open and with something to prove as well. He's been here, so he knows the demands, and he knows himself what was acceptable and what wasn't. He knows that his performances as a player here were unacceptable. And he knows what Rangers fans are going to be expecting, which is win everything, win every game, and be competitive, even if it's against Barcelona. We don't ask for much, you know. But he's going into that knowing what those expectations are, and that's a good thing. I mean, I think we have had managers in the past who have, you know, not understood the league, not understood the nature of the old firm, not understood what it's like to be in the Goldfish Bowl in Scotland. He's coming into that with his eyes open and well aware of the pressure and you know, what he's going to be under. So it's good. I mean, you cannot say that he's going to be surprised by what's happening here. He's will have been watching the team from afar. He'll know where the squad's at, and so can only hope that we have those replacements and new players lined up and ready to come in, because we're 45 days away from our first match.
Yeah, we'll be fine. Nobody will overreact, and we'll all just take it in our stride. So it'll be absolutely fine. Andrew, I know that we're going to be back on later on and have, you know, much more of a kind of in-depth look onto this. But I did sit down with Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell in a 13-minute, probably about a 15-minute interview, which can be made available for people to listen this afternoon. There is no visual of this. It was audio only. That was all we were allowed. So it will be kind of made available with a Four Lads kind of logo in the background for people to listen to. What we asked them, quick summary of it, basically spoke to Patrick Stewart. I asked him first up, you know, where are we with securing, you know, a new commercial director? Where are we with securing medical team? Where are we with securing the academy people that we need to bring in? So there was lots of conversation around that. Kevin Thelwell joined in. There's discussion on recruitment, you know, player-wise, where are we with that kind of stuff? So people can hear that, and that'll be available, I think, later on this afternoon. But that was a really worthwhile thing for us to do as well. Chance to kind of speak to Patrick Stewart about investment and things like that as well. So that'll be available, and that was worthwhile for us as well. It gives us a kind of, and all of us, a kind of overriding, because these questions about, you know, recruitment, who's going to do it, the questions about medical, the questions about scouting, the questions about the academy and the overall structure of the football club, you know, who's coming in as commercial when Sean Jimison goes and things like that. That is all things that people ask us on a daily basis on this show. So those are the questions that I took to them and asked on kind of behalf of all of us on where we are and what we'll do with it. So I hope people enjoy that, and that'll be available to them this afternoon. So it's a worthwhile listen. I hope the audio and things okay. We weren't allowed to mic up, we weren't allowed to film and stuff like that. So it is going to be, you know, sitting in a room talking about it, and hopefully people take it for what it is. But it's a worthwhile listen and gives us an insight into where we all are. Yeah,
I'm going to take a listen to that once we're done here, Stevie, and tidy the audio up, make sure it's nice, edit it together so we've got a nice Four Lads logo for it, and then we'll go from there. It's going to look beautiful once it's done. So yeah, that'll be up with folks as soon as I can get my arse in gear and do the work to get it ready for public release. So if I can look forward to that about an hour or so.
Yep, that's it. And probably a good way just to sum this up then, Andrew, first impressions, you know, impressive. He's always going to be a good speaker. It's always going to be like opening day. You're always going to be impressed and intrigued by what he's saying. I think he does that. I thought they all spoke fine. Can't go into what was said to us off screen, but what I will say is that he goes into under no illusions of what's required for this squad, where this squad is, and what our expectations is. It was, you know, he's well aware of it. He speaks really well about it, and you know, we can expect significant change in the first team, and that's just in the first team. I'm not talking about the squad. I'm talking about in the first team as well. So we need to allow that process to happen. He's going to be judged on, him and Kevin Thelwell are going to be judged on who they bring in, and how that's going to work. And those are the exciting things, Andrew. You know, I don't think there's any position in that team that's untouchable. They will have their ideas. I think he's very clear on what he wants to do. So in order to do it, as I'm repeating myself, we're going to need to bring in that player. So it's an exciting time for us as supporters to watch that unfold. Who we getting, who we're bringing in, what players are coming, and that's the thing for us now that we can get excited about. We asked for a takeover, it's done. We asked for sporting director and structure, it's in progress, and some of it's in place. We asked for a head coach that will bring us an identity and a style. Well, the style he talks about is the style that every single one of us want. Whether or not he'll achieve that, whether or not he'll work, is completely up in the air, and there's plenty of people questioning it, which is fine. But he's here now, so we need to get behind it all, and let's see how it goes.
Yep, he'll have my backing, as I say, until the first 10 minutes of the preseason games. It's all going to come down to results. It always does. But he's going to have my support, because ultimately we all want the same thing. We want successful Rangers. We want a winning Rangers. And that's what we're looking for Martin to achieve with us. So here's hoping he can do it. Thank you for coming on and giving us an update, Stevie. Really appreciate it. Everyone watching, nearly 2,500 of you, we appreciate that as well. We had a new member who joined, or two new members rather, Walter Geddes and James Houston, both joined as members. So thank you for that, boys. You are now able to use the most important thing. You've got access to the stickers, and that's what it's all about. You can use your little stickers there. We've got little Stevie. We got a bit of Kenny as well. We got Cheryl after a typical Rangers support. We've got me after a typical Rangers game as well. And yeah, there's also exclusive videos and interviews with Stephen Naismith and Stephen Smith and other folk as well. But the stickers are the main thing. That's what folk are really joining for. So yeah, appreciate you guys joining. Your support, as always, is much appreciated. So thank you, Stevie. Thanks again, mate, for giving us an update. And folk can feel free to tune in to me and Kenny and a few others rambling on about what this all means later on tonight as well.
Yeah, I've had a non-stop day, up with the kids straight away. Early announcement, which I completely more or less missed, and then kids for school. Back on Rangers Review, straight over to Ibrox, doing all that, straight to here, and now straight to work. So it's been a really busy day. Hope everybody's enjoyed the coverage. I hope we've done well in doing that. I hope that people think that we asked the right stuff, and I hope that people enjoy the interview this afternoon as well. So as ever, thanks everybody for joining us. Just usual support is fantastic, and we really appreciate it.
Just really quickly, Macca, I'd love your names in blue as well. YouTube don't let us change that. It's locked in. So I'd love to change that. I really would, but I can't. So I'm fighting against them. But we'll keep working away and do what we can, mate. Sorry for that. Again, thanks to everyone for the support. Stevie, thanks again for coming out. And yeah, we'll be back again this evening. But until we talk to you again, folks, bye for now.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.